The battle of the group stage is almost over. The battle for San Francisco will soon begin. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the WGLNA. I'm Joshua Gray.
And I'm Randall Holcomb. We're coming right to the end of regular season, where we're about to find out who will be joining us in the playoffs, who will be going to San Francisco. And it is still tight to figure out who's going to be getting those buys and who's going to be actually making it in.
The nature of the playoffs itself, which will happen next Tuesday and Thursday, next week, to determine who will join the top two teams. Right now, those two teams are the Cunninghams and Simp, but based on the performance of the different matches tonight, it could be somebody else besides the Cunninghams that get the auto berth, if you will, the auto seed into the finals, happening at the Folsom Street Foundry in San Francisco on March 15th. Anything can happen tonight, and a lot of things will determine what's going to happen for next week. It's an exciting time. It's been a long journey here for season 8, or for season 5, week 8 right now. And let's go ahead and break down what happened and the scores from Tuesday night.
Of course, Fear in a tiebreaker with I Love Lamp. I Love Lamp takes it 5-4, probably the highlight match of Tuesday.
Definitely. We were a little bit spoiled for the rest of the night because that match was so good. Sybil Tankers takes down Simply Irresistible 5-3. Hammer Time defeats Penguin Mafia 5-2, and RUlette was able to defeat Simp 5-2. And that was a bit of a surprise based on the performance of RUlette so far this season, but also to what's happening with Simp at the end of Season 5.
Yeah, it's just such a two storylines coming together, where one team is, kind of in what appears to be a decline, the other being on a rough path, but appears to be now in the upswing.
Well, the upswing is going to have to continue because RUlette will barely make it through the playoffs with a win tonight. A loss, and it could be dire straits trying to make it to San Francisco. Let's move on and talk about the non-broadcasted matches that happened on Tuesday as well. Victoria's Secret took down Noble 5-1. RBIS in a tiebreaker defeated Fun Gaming 5-4. Top Tier lost to Elevate 3-5. And the Cunninghams defeated Timed Out via a forfeit. Timed Out did not participate in that match. Cunningham's now is the #1 team in the standings.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for Simp to catch them. If they get the win tonight, they can tie with them and then take first place, but it's not nearly as solid a lead as Simp would prefer to have, I think.
And the reason they'll take first place if they do tie is because of the nature of the head-to-head. Cunninghams and Simp faced each other, I believe, in the first week of the season, and because Simp defeated them, if it is a tiebreaker scenario, Simp gets the auto win. That will apply to every single teams that will end up in ties tonight if there is a head-to-head victory. If there's not, then our admin will take care of that, and we will alert you guys to what the next process is and who's going to make it to the playoffs via social media.
Yes, and also we did post an article very recently breaking down how the playoffs are going to work on our WGLNA website.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from the matches that happened on Tuesday. First off, we have Fear versus I Love Lamp. Again, one of the best series we've seen this season, and the incredible sweep coming from I Love Lamp in the tiebreaker on Cliff using that eastern side. Very well done.
Yes, this was really a treat of a match, and in the very end of it, it wasn't so much a mistake, but just better play, a perfect reaction from I Love Lamp that would get them the win in that tiebreaker on Cliff.
Now, Cliff is a map that we've seen not as much towards the end of Season 5, but because it was the tiebreaker, we got to see the return of the T-49s. The tiebreaker, again, tonight will be Cliff in case any of these matches do go to that scenario. Let's move on and take a look at Simple Tankers versus Simply Irresistible. Now, I was a little bit frustrated watching these two teams, but I had to overcome that, and in the end, Simple Tankers was able to take it.
I mean, if you really broke it down, though, looking back, there was some great play. I think Simple Tankers brought out some tactics and strategies that were just a joy to watch. And then on the other side, Simply Irresistible played an excellent game. Both of these teams giving us a tight match that could have gone either way, but Simple Tankers was on form Tuesday.
And compartmentalizing that match itself, yes, we saw some great things, but we have to look at the bigger picture of, can these teams go toe-to-toe with the two teams that are going to make it to San Francisco automatically? And that's where these teams have really got to buckle down and realize, okay, we have significant wins, we're making it to the playoffs, but if we want a piece of this $171,000 prize pool, we've got to make some changes, we've got to perform better.
And both of these teams, they're on the upswing, they're getting better and better, they're doing their study, they're putting in the time and the homework.
And we're seeing their growth continually, especially with teams like I Love Lamp and Team Fear. Let's take a look at RUlette versus Simp. A bit of a surprise, a bit of an upset once again, based on the nature of RUlette's performance over the second half of this season, but you can say the same thing about Simp.
Exactly. With Simp, they started the season so strong, dominant as always, but they've fallen behind. And now we're seeing errors and plays that we don't expect from Simp. Times when you'd expect them to have that perfect reaction or be able to come up with the solution to the problem or outplay their opponent. They're not able to do that. They're finding opponents have been catching up to them, and in many ways surpassing them. RUlette, who was having so much trouble and really struggling for a while, has started to pick up the pace, get better, and giving them a week or two, they might have a real chance at San Francisco.
The usage of the T-32s on RUlette has been a bit of that meta shift in the 7x54, and teams trying to work around that has been one of the dominating principles and effects when it comes to RUlette, and possibly will be part of the meta game moving into the playoffs and the finals. Well, we saw a lot of great play coming from teams over this entire season and a lot of different tank selections. But one of the tanks that did not make it so far in Season 5 is the TOG-2. Let's take a look.
Here we explore tank facts about the TOG-2. The TOG-2 is an endangered species from the remote island of Great Britain. It is considered endangered because this tank's natural habitat, trench warfare, is no longer a viable method of combat. The TOG-2 is a monstrous tank capable of absorbing 1,400 hit points before it explodes in a ball of nostalgia. For size comparison, the TOG-2 is longer than a mouse, and I don't mean the furry kind. One thing that everyone can agree on is the TOG-2 is very, very slow, like a turtle or a boat. Really? Whoa! Coming in hot? The TOG-2 may move like a turtle, but it's a turtle with laser beams. The OQF 17-pounder Mark 7 gun can fire 12 rounds per minute. When using APCR rounds, this gun can penetrate up to 239 millimeters of armor. Despite its speed, the TOG-2 proves that in battle, slow and steady wins the race. With laser beams.
The nautical tank, as you like to call it, Randall.
Yeah, I love to just use nautical terms, drive right down the middle of a map or wherever there's a river, and do that in a platoon for a few hours.
Works every time. Works every time. Let's take a look at the matches that we have in store for you tonight. First up, it's going to be RUlette versus RBIS. RUlette in 10th place, as we mentioned before, barely get a squeak into the playoffs if they get a victory tonight. Now, on Tuesday, they did beat Simp 5-2. Great victory for RUlette. But because of their overall performance, they are in a very tough spot. So close to making it to the next step, but just a simple stumble, a loss, or some other changes that happen in the standings, and they're not going to make it to the next stage.
Yeah, and this is the perfect opponent for them. If they beat RBIS tonight, then they will be able to pass them, and that gives them a better chance of staying into the playoffs after the crazy scores of everyone else's matches come together. Both teams a very good chance of getting in, but it comes down, I think, to a one or the other is going to make it to playoffs. And
that might very be... It's a tough place, man, because RBIS joined us, and RUlette won the event last time in Season 4. So to have either one of these teams not joining us in the playoffs, let alone San Francisco, really shows how much has changed from last season. The next matchup that we have in store for you is going to be Simp versus Fun Gaming. Now, Simp has fallen to second place. Their loss against RUlette spells possible internal trouble happening with the team, but we're not going to speculate about that. Still one of the top performers of all time when it comes to North American World of Tanks esports. If they lose, though, if they lose this match and Hammer Times wins their match, then Simp is out of the auto berth. They are not automatically going to San Francisco. It will be Hammer Time that will join the Cunninghams, and Simp will have to play in the playoffs. So the pressure is on for Simp tonight.
And on top of that, if you look at Fun Gaming can manage to get themselves into the playoffs, taking themselves away from that 10th place area. And if they're in a tie with RUlette at the end of this, they will lose out in the head-to-head, which is not what they want. They'll be denied access to the playoffs. They need the win here tonight. So both teams desperately need these wins to maintain a level of comfort that they're used to.
A do-or-die scenario for both teams. Hammer Time versus Simple Tankers will be our third match. Now, Hammer Time took out Penguin Mafia on Tuesday, and they currently sit in third place, depending on the possibility of what happens with the Simp versus Fun Gaming matchup. Hammer Time has been waiting for that shot to overtake either Simp or the Cunninghams, and now they have a chance to do so. But some things are out of their control, except winning this match against Simple Tankers, which is no easy feat.
Yeah, it is not. Simple Tankers has been playing very well recently. They're one of those teams that I'm looking for to really step up as the season gets to the close and we get into playoffs. They could bring a new level of play, especially if they really ramp up their practice and study. If they beat Hammer Time, it's amazing for them, and it really hurts Hammer Time. I think Simple Tankers could do well with a slightly better seed so that they can avoid playing opponents like Fear and I Love Lamp earlier in the playoffs.
The last matchup tonight is going to be the Cunninghams versus Fear. The Cunninghams, the #1 team right now in North America. They didn't even play a match against Timed Out due to the forfeits. They're going to be very rested into this matchup tonight against Fear. Now, if the Cunninghams lose and Simp wins, there will be a tie for first, but as we mentioned before, because of the head-to-head, Simp will then be our first-place team at the end of group play of a regular season.
And that's not so bad. I mean, first and second getting in, they're at the finals. I think that's good enough. You can't ask for much more than just getting all the way past those playoffs. Those first and second spots, I think if Cunninghams can settle for second in the tie, if it happens, you know, it's not that bad, is it? And then for Fear to get another win and also to be up on the Cunninghams then that way, it's very similar to last season when we saw those huge upsets, really proving that these teams can consistently compete at the top.
And Fear, top of the freshman class, you could say. They had a tough tiebreaker loss against I Love Lamp. 7th place, and another victory here gives them even more momentum into the playoffs, and I think into the finals. They are looking mighty and strong. The same for I Love Lamp. Well, that does it for our pregame show here, ladies and gentlemen. We're very excited that you're going to be joining us here for the final day of group play for Season 5 of the WGLNA. The first matchup begins after this. Stay tuned.
Starting off, actually, from Season 4 preseason, we were going to end it with World of Tanks. Our team roster, we had a few players on the team express interest to stop playing, to retire from the sport. So it was, regardless of the outcome, Fnatic, as the roster that it was at, was not going to be going forward into Season 5. I know the results were not as everybody has hoped for. Going into the playoffs, we knew it was our last hurrah. We knew that, you know, we're going to give it our best. If we take the championship, that's great. If not, then, you know, it's unfortunate. Of course, going up against Simp in the first round, that's a matchup that has been a classic matchup in North America. And I think we put up a great fight. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take that first spot after we were eliminated from contention. It was just a matter of, you know, closing out the season. The result at that point, it wasn't #1. It didn't really matter for us as much. We weren't competing for, you know, seeding into the next season. We weren't competing much at all. And to wrap things up, you know, I want to thank all the fans and everybody who has supported us. I want to thank all our teammates that are no longer playing with World of Tanks, and Fnatic organization. It was a great time. It was an awesome time. We set a pretty high standard, and even today, Fnatic and Fulcrum Gaming legacy is unmatched in the league. And I want to say good luck to the teams that are going to try and challenge that. But you know, it's going to be a tough time.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the WGLNA. We're almost ready for our first match. But as always, I'd like to remind you to please follow us on Twitter at WGLNA, Facebook.com/WGLNA, and make sure to use that hashtag WGLNA so we can find your tweets and put them up on the broadcast.
And we have a very special question of the day today. If you had to choose one person to be a guest caster, who would you choose? And it can be anyone. Anyone at all.
Bob Costas.
That's an example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob Costas would be mind-blowing.
That's one of the nicest compliments someone's ever given me, is they called me the Bob Costas of esports. And I said, well,
that's a huge statement.
Thank
man.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very
I'd go
cool.
for, I'd pick like some kind of like huge star, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'd pick someone who's just like an A-lister, and I would pick any single one just so they would be here and it would just be one of those moments.
Yeah, definitely.
Where you watch someone who you're used to being an actor in these big movies, just commentate your game.
And see them as a human, as
Yeah.
a human being sitting next to you. Well, if you want to see some of the people here at the WGLNA in person, you have an opportunity to do so. There's a very special tournament that Wargaming is hosting where you can win a trip to the WGLNA Gold League Finals. All you have to do is go to worldoftanks.com, click the tournaments section, and hit WGLNA. You'll see all of the information you need to sign up. Sign up is open until February 19th. Now, the prizes include airfare to San Francisco, hotel accommodations, and transportation. This is a 3v3 tournament, so 3 individuals will be joining us at the Folsom Street Foundry in San Francisco on March 15th. We're waiting for the face-off between our 2 team representatives here in our first matchup. And you can just imagine the amount of pressure for these teams as the standings will be finalized in a matter of hours. And I'm being told the face-off is ready, so let's go ahead and check in with our 2 team representatives. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey.
Good evening.
All right, game is ready. Let's start with you. A win over Simp on Tuesday. How did that affect your team?
Surprisingly, not at all. Same mentality, same stuff going in. Just play out the season, see what happens after.
And that's the mentality going into this matchup. Play your best and see what happens if you make it to the playoffs or not?
Pretty much.
And are you guys planning on keeping up this level of performance or ramping it up as we get into the playoffs and potentially the finals for you guys?
Not really. Just what we've been doing. Just keep it up and see how far we can go.
Well, you have to face RBIS tonight, who's 1 standing above you. Let's check in with your opponents. We have Sella standing by. Sella, RBIS joined us in Seattle at the last event, and tonight is really make or break for you guys just to make it to the playoffs. What's the pressure like for your team?
Well, I don't know that we understand what pressure is. You know, like I don't know that we've ever defined ourselves by a internet tank video game, but you know, obviously we would prefer to be in the playoffs. You know, that's much nicer than not being there. So for sure, we'd like to win.
All right, Sel, any words you'd like to say to your opponents before we start?
Well, I heard you guys talking about a guest caster. I totally would like to a shout out to my fellow Asian Jackie Rudo. But anyway, I just wanted to wish my opponents good luck.
All right, thank you, Sella. Game is rigged from RUlette. Any words?
I'll also recommend Jackie, and also good luck, have fun.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Best of luck. We'll see you on the battlefield. All right. Well, both put in a vote for Jackie Rudo.
And they both sound as though they're not feeling the pressure. I think they're just relaxed here. It's kind of strange, though, to not feel pressure in competition. It seems very foreign to me.
Well, it's part of that reverse type of thinking or double thinking where, oh, man, I could be so nervous right now because of what's at stake, so now I have to focus all of my energy to not be nervous right now, to not have those feelings, to not have that type of energy.
Yeah, but it's like being nervous or it always feels like it shows that you care, and I kind of feel like from my experience, it's the way I feel. When I feel nervous, I know I care.
Yeah.
If I don't feel nervous, I don't know if I care.
Being nervous hones your senses to have you be in the present moment so you know exactly what's happening around you and to be very cognizant and conscious of that, at least in my experience. But you and I, hey, we get nervous before we go live, and there's a certain level of we want to create the best show for you guys in the broadcast, and so there's a lot of responsibility because of that. For these 2 teams playing, you know, that $171,000 prize pool is there, but it's kind of off in the distance. I felt that if both of them were in the finals right now, the pressure would have an exuberant amount of effect upon them.
And you know what? Some people may have a different opinion of what you're trying to say when you're saying, are you nervous? When you're nervous, some people think, are you shaking? Are you losing it right now? Are you unable to keep yourself together? Is that what nervous is? Because some people say that if you don't feel that way, you're not nervous.
Both these teams, though, have experience on a stage in front of a live crowd playing with the majority of these rosters. A number of roster changes happen with RUlette, RBIS as well. But tonight, this is their final match in group play. And here we go. Match 1, battle number 1 will take place on our first map, Prohorovka. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
Well, for tanks, we have 2 T-32s on either side, a single 1390 on either side, and RUlette going with 3 RU-251s and an AMX-13F3, played by Vacuum. Now, We've had mixed performances out of this tank. Let's see if they can make it work here on Prohorovka. On the other side, RBIS will be putting Gabriel and Precam in M41 Walker Bulldogs.
Opening moves coming from the blue team, the defenders, RBIS.
Looks like we have a pause on the side of RUlette. Looks like it's going to be a disconnect. We're going to have to restart the battle. So if you'll just give us one moment, we will reset, wait for that player to reconnect, and then we'll start the battle in just a few seconds.
They'll still have the same tank lineup, so I noticed a number of T-32s coming from those Valera Desolator.
And both sides, really. Both bringing 2 T-32s. And then you have RUlette bringing that traditional AMX F3 that they've been getting good performance with. Maybe not the consistent performance that you'd hope for, but you can bring it out maybe once, twice on a map, and it can get you a win. The other time you bring it out, maybe it doesn't get you the win, but it's on the battlefield. You still manage to win because of your playstyle around that. It enhances your play sometimes in a way that I feel you can win in a situation where if you would run into that opponent, just face first without that artillery piece, you would fail your attack. The already softens your opponent up and allows for more frontal attacks where, you know, most open maps, you can't just charge.
No. And Simple Tankers will be the first ones to tell you that. Even though they're not in this matchup, that was the major issue that team kept finding themselves in, was trying to engage in a brawl and sometimes going straight at the opponent, but they would take so much damage in their movement that by the time they would get there, they'd be 2 or 3 shots away from being destroyed, about 2 or 3 of their tanks, especially, you know, 5100s that they're trying to send across or even the lighter tanks. So they have to be very cautious about that. But the shift that they had was to create more flanks, to create more of these fixed positions against their opponent and move in on the sides.
And when you bring an artillery piece, the kind of philosophy that you get to work with is you go find your opponent, as in find a tank which is going to be in a fixed position, which is hoping to control the map, like a T-32 maybe. That works. Continue getting it spotted. Make sure that it stays there, maybe pin its position, but often a T-32 is going to stay safe. Use that arty to just beat it up, and after you take it down low enough, you deal some damage to other tanks, you get ahead, and then from there you find that weak point and you just break them. Because when everything's lower health, it's going to take that little bit lesser time, and you can just continue steamrolling.
All right, here we go, folks. Match 1, Battle 1, Prohorovka, once again, RUlette and RBIS. Let's check those tanks out one more time, Randall.
All right, to remind everyone, 2 T-32s, a 1390, 3 RU-251s, and an AMX-13F3 for RUlette. On the other side, RBIS, defending in the blue, will have 2 T-32s, a 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. And looking at the opening moves, we do have the RUlette RU-251s going right up the middle, which kind of plays into the style we expect from RUs, which is that they'll take the middle, look for a T-32, and try and damage it on the approach. RBIS is going to do much the same, sending Precam for an early route, and it doesn't look like he's going to take much fire. RUlette does not have quite the timing to zero their shots or even have a good angle before he's rather safe. In the meantime, RUlette is screened for their artillery piece to get to safety. And we have Vacuum all the way in the southwest corner of the map, looking towards the middle, where I believe he's probably going to target some of these T-32s, Sella and Oxmathis, who are moving into position. Sella has been spotted.
They continue to creep up slowly, and Azpilicueta takes a hit, but the return fire against Sella hits for 301. Azpilicueta gets hit one more time, and the traded fire will continue back and forth as the T-32s will dance in that whole down position dance that we see so often here on Prohorovka, and the 7x54 changes. Great changes, by the way, Randall. It's been so fantastic to see these teams embrace a new format and how much more exciting it is to see them play. And Sella's on fire, huge shot, and he's down. And that's one tank down already for RBIS.
Yeah, Vacuum getting an amazing shot right there. I think that hit the engine deck. And from there, he didn't have a fire extinguisher ready. And he's going to pay for it. Or even if he did, maybe it had already been used. Anyway, we have a T-32
very quickly.
Yeah, we have a T-32 off the battlefield. That's what's important here. And if you look at the hit points, RUlette 7,500, RBIS 6,600. That's a huge difference to have this early. You're down a Tier 8 heavy tank. You have so much which you have just completely lost. Now only Oxmathis holds the middle, a 2v1 in T-32s with artillery support. I don't expect Ox Mathis to be able to survive much longer in the position he currently holds. And I'm worried about him, and I think that if RUlette plays the rest of this battle correctly, which I think they are, Valerian game is rigged moving up into the bowl, that's going to dominate this section of the map. Ox Mathis, I like the play. Moving back, giving ground, and heading to Delta 5. From there, he can more safely engage against those T-32s without having to worry about getting just dominated in hull down.
But a blind fire coming from RUlette. Game is rigged was spotted for a number of seconds now. He's spotted again. He keeps appearing and disappearing here as he pops up back and forth. RBIS as the defenders do not have to chase. They don't have to aggress against RUlette, but RUlette, because of that kill, can slowly make their way into the weaker positions of RBIS, but trying to find those weak positions is no easy task. Now 4 minutes left on the battle clock as Ox Mathis is the only tank across the railroad tracks waiting for an opening against RUlette, and RUlette's hanging back, and now we're seeing some slight movement towards the north.
Yes, we've got Master Putin in a 1390 leading the way for RUlette to finally take control of the 1-2 line. They were holding back a little while. They didn't see RBIS tanks leaving that section of the map, so you don't have the intel. You don't know if there's a trap for you. They waited, verified that RBIS has set up. They've put Akiyama on the east. They've transitioned in that direction. Pretty safe bet. They're not going to pay for taking this position, and now they have control of the west. They do have Vacuum pretty much alone in the south, but he is going to shift position, which I should point something out that's important about artillery, and is that, you know how the train tracks cut across the middle of the map, north to south? If Vacuum puts himself in about Echo 1, maybe Foxtrot 1, he's going to severely limit himself in some respects. You have to go, in my opinion, to the far north and the far south to be effective. Some artillery players think that they can do well at E1, but I find that very situational.
RUlette's putting Azpilicueta on the flag cap to try to pull a little bit of RBS's attention. But the time's ticking away for RUlette to make a move here. They still have enough time to execute, but about 15 more seconds, and if they're not moving and attacking, they could lose this. RBIS now shifting their tanks from the north, Smiley and Mi Amigo going down to the south as Master Putin is on his approach.
Exactly. Master Putin is going to be able to engage against Ox Mathis, keep him spotted, and probably win out in the damage in this engagement. I'm waiting for Vacuum to possibly have a shot. If he can, that will help him out greatly in this engagement, because there we go, 361. That's what we're looking for. More damage onto Ox Mathis to take him out of this position, while the rest of RUlette needs to be covering the inevitable approach that is happening from RBIS along the F line.
And here comes the push from RBIS to try to get behind RUlette. Gabriel Angelos takes a hit. Ox Mathis does go down, and it's up to RBIS to shift this momentum away from RUlette in the center of the map. But these T-32s have positioned themselves to block any of that fire coming in, and to know where RBIS's tanks will be positioning themselves. With 43 seconds left on the clock, RUlette is maintaining their dominance on the battlefield, and Precambrian is almost going down. Akiyama is tracked. Gabriel Angelos falls. Mi Amigo's trying to push in to take down Game is Rigged, but Game is Rigged launches a beautiful hit, and Precambrian follows it up for a kill. Only 3 tanks remain for RBIS. Mi Amigo takes down Game is Rigged. Akiyama is on the run. The reset happens on the flag cap. Azpilicueta leaves, but there's only 2 more tanks with 1 minute and 20 seconds left. RBIS is done for. RUlette's about to clean this up.
Yeah, they've done such an excellent job, too. I love how their T-32s made that transition just at the right time so they wouldn't be easily overwhelmed or lose out where they should be able to hold. They kept the high ground appropriately, and the rest of the team worked to keep everything in order. Mi Amigo jumps off a cliff. Looks like he was trying to just end things, not wanting to deal with the aftermath of possibly getting Goomba'd.
Oh! Shot from in the air. Master Putin cleans it up, and RUlette puts the first point on the board. That's significant T-32 death at about the 5-minute mark. From there, RBIS could not recuperate.
Yeah, I need to check the post-game stats here. Vacuum getting the top damage in this battle. He does 1,911 hit points of damage, and that is 3 hits, 3 penetrations, giving him absolutely MVP of this battle. Like, just starting everything off. This is fantastic for RUlette. You couldn't have asked for Artie to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Early kill, get the early lead, because tanks are too exposed and unable to deal with the fact that there's an Artie. You can't do that on proc. You can't just blitz at your opponent. It's too open. They're going to be able to tear you apart before you get to that artillery piece. So you can't really target it. You have to just try and win elsewhere and hope that you can break through somewhere to get the arty. Take advantage of some exposed weak point somewhere, but that isn't often an option when you set up in the southwest.
And it's a little bit of that RNG factor too. You're thinking, come on, have this shot land, or hopefully they're not looking this way when they start moving, and it's a bit of a gamble. But almost any strategy you bring on Pro Horovka is going to be a bit of a gamble because of the nature of the map. You have to peek up and try to find the tanks. You have to assume if they're defending, they're going to be near the railroad tracks, and then go from there. No hillside play was used at all in battle number 1. Not a surprise. But I wonder if that's going to open up more for RBIS, or at least on the attack, but they're going to defend one more time here in battle number 2, which the countdown has begun. So, Randall, what do we have for tanks?
Well, it's much the same, actually. 2 T-32s, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and an AMX-13F3 for RUlette in their final attack. RBIS, the blue team defending, will have 2 T-32s, a 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. Let's see if they can execute better, and hopefully Sela doesn't get taken out, at least for RBIS's sake. But if Vacuum can repeat that performance, that's amazing for him.
Another uphill battle.
Let's see, it looks like they're going to go for much the same opening. Vacuum indicates where the center of RUlette's control should be, ideally the safest part on the map. So he's going to head west. At the same time, we're going to see the same strategy opening from RUlette, where they're going to send their 3 RUs to the middle in order to try and deal some early damage. Notice Yurkamolo and Toplum taking the shallowest hill in order to get up. You don't want to go uphill at a very steep angle. You'll lose a lot of speed, and it's less efficient.
Shots fired already as many tanks are spotted, but no connections so far. Akiyama, Smiley Rage, and Miamigo from RBIS are trying to set up a potential punishing flank. Maybe small, but 1 or 2 shots against those peeking T-32s or other tanks coming from RUlette would be worth it, as Ox, Mathis, and Sela are now pushing towards that section in the center of the map where they can jump up and over, maybe fire a shot or 2 into RUlette.
Now look at this. Toplum immediately transitions from his mid-run into a west side 1-2 push, which is aggressive and perhaps even risky. They're going to transition Game is Rigged and Valera. These guys are not taking a moment. They're not wasting a second to try and get forward positions where most teams would be doing this after the 5-minute mark. This is good timing, aggressive, perhaps risky. We'll see if it pans out, because RBIS, if they can react quickly enough, could take advantage of this aggression and the slight weaknesses in it right now. But Gabriel Angelos, Master Putin takes out Gabriel, and now is going to try and take cover behind that wreck.
There's 2 shots left as the 2 T-32s from RBIS are looking towards his section. They're firing. They do not connect, and that leaves an opening for RUlette to move in against these 2 tanks. Game is Rigged sneaks a shot. Valera's now going to press in, but Sela and Ox Mathis can fall back slightly. Artillery shell does not land. And, well, not artillery shell, sorry. That was the one of the tankers from farther away from RUlette. It almost looked like arcing fire.
No, not yet. Vacuum fired a moment ago. I don't think he was able to deal much. No, 2 shots, no damage this battle. Yet. So he's still looking to land a big connecting shot, get the kill, or deal enough damage to the point where RUlette can break through. Vacuum,
he's reloaded.
Yeah. Wait for it. It's going to go for the T-32s. They're the slowest, easiest
target.
target.
And he gets it. 363, and he also tracks Sela, and Ox Mathis' hit to the side. That is not a good enough opening for Game is Rigged and Valera to push in, but to the north, Ox Mathis is taking shots from York Molo and Master Putin. They have this section of the map under lockdown, and because of RBIS moving over to the east, they can't return fire, and there goes Sela and Ox Mathis. RUlette takes down the T-32s in the center.
Great coverage. The pressure is too much. You've got T-32s on one side, you've got to the northwest a 1390 and an RU-251, and then you've got artillery fire raining down, and RBIS is not bringing enough counter pressure with their other tanks. Akiyama, Miamigo, Smiley, Precam, they're sitting back trying to snipe and hoping that they can play that long distance time game. You can't do that when the artillery is there. You're going to lose. There's more damage that's going to more reliably hit. And I could say more reliably because you can't depend on a lot of damage when you're doing these sniping games. Precam is going to go for the backfield trying to find the arty, but he's going to be too late. Vacuum is already transitioning, recognizing that potential weakness, and is going to head north so that he's safer behind the T-32s where he can deal damage without potentially getting taken out by one of those sneaky scouts.
Smiley Rage and Akiyama are headed further south out of the village, looking for any openings against RUlette, who has about 2K damage in advantage over RBIS here. 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Azpilicueta is on the flag cap, forcing RBIS to focus on one section as Vacuum is going to head further north to reposition the artillery. So we continue to wait with 4 tanks remaining for RBIS, 6 still left alive for Roulette.
Yeah, Vacuum just now getting into his intended position. It's very forward, actually. I would have expected that he'd be, there we go, into a lower ground. It's such a short tank, you can hide it in positions that something like a T-32 or another heavy tank simply can't and would still take fire. It's just so tiny. And now he's going to aim north towards Akiyama, which he has not been spotted yet. But...
And there goes Precambrium. Topple him. Is able to get that kill. Smiley Rage now pressing up in the RU-251. He needs to get the reset against Azpilicueta in order to keep his team alive. As he is looking and scanning to the left, he needs to move to the right, which he is doing now. And Azpilicueta is able to sink the shot right after Master Putin fires.
But here comes Mi Amigo. And he's up and over. He does get the reset. And that, I mean, only 2 tanks left. Roulette's got this one, but at least they might be able to get that kill.
Well, Mi Amigo's not able to escape. Akiyama's the last tank alive. Even though he hasn't taken any more damage, Roulette has enough tanks to chase him down. So that brings us to the point, Randall, of RBIS not successfully defending here against Roulette. And with the shift into Battle 3, Roulette's looking fantastic. Vacuum gets the last kill. I think Roulette can defend very well against RBIS, and it's going to be an even tougher battle if it's another victory for RBIS in the beginning of Prohorovka, or in the beginning of the first map. If they get 3 wins at least, this is going to be tough because RBIS is on the attack on Murovanka, the second map.
Oh, man, attack on Murovanka, but we've seen some interesting strategies there. There's the potential for a comeback, I think. But I think if you take a look at the way RBIS is playing against Roulette's lineup, I don't think they're taking into account the artillery and its potential damage nearly as much as they should. Now, there are other mistakes here. Even without artillery, I think that Sela and Oxmathis would go down. It's not a great position. The hold down is okay from one direction, not when you have tanks in that northwest position able to get the crossfire. Very clear shots, not too difficult. There's minimal cover. They should have backed off sooner, and you can see why most teams do back off and head further east with those T-32s when they recognize they've lost the west. That's what's going to happen. Those are the consequences. And RBIS, maybe they learned their lesson here, but now on the attack, they've got to turn it around. Will they bring T-32s? Will they try and play that slower game? Even if Roulette were to bring an Artie. So I'm wondering about this decision-making right now of RBIS.
I am too, but if you take a look at the points, or when it comes to the damage, those T-32s are really, really dictating what's happening on the battlefield from Roulette. If RBIS is going to take a page out of that, that dominance is going to be important, but does it become too predictable if they try to play what RBIS or what Roulette did in the first 2 battles? Battle number 3 is about to begin. What do we have for tanks?
Well, we have 2 T-32s, a 1390, 3 RU-251s, and instead of an artillery piece, we have a 5916 by Game is Rigged for Roulette on their defense. RBIS on the attack will go for the same lineup they've been bringing. 2 T-32s, 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. It's a very consistent fire lineup where you have only 1 Tier 8 autoloader, and you have only you have the 2 autoloaders that are going to be M41s. Although I do need to verify that by checking the reloads of Precam and Gabriel. You see there on reload, they have the autoloader.
Opening run from RBIS is an eastern side push. As they get closer to the village, they're going to use it for cover. 2 tanks have actually gone on the hillside.
And shots fired. Az takes a hit for about 200. And he's going to have to back off, staying a little aggressive on his opening run. You find that there's no RBIS tanks on the west side. You know they're on the east. I think that could spell a transition from Roulette in order to defend against what's about to happen. And also I think spotting Precam is a good indicator, but not the perfect indicator. He's an M41. An M41 doesn't represent a Tier 8 tank, it represents a scout, something that reasonably could be on the flank. But there we go, spotting onto Oxmathis. That is telling. That says where the focus of RBIS is. They're going to put them on the east if they're going to attack the east. They would never leave those T-32s in the west if they were going to try and pull something on the east side like that. It's inefficient, it's too weak, easy to be exploited and taken advantage of.
Gabriel Angelos now heading over towards the railroad tracks to the north looking for Toplum. Toplum is spotted. Little M41 Bulldog, even though it can pack quite a punch, does not have the armor or hit points available to tackle any of these other tanks. Azpilicueta and Toplum are the only two tanks that have taken any damage here, and RBIS still looking for that opening.
I think you brought up a very valid point about the M41. Other than its hit points and armor, it would be a perfectly valid Tier 8 light tank.
Definitely.
It's just the hit points and the armor that really balance it out, because it's so potent. But after the next patch, I think it's getting a little bit of a rebalance. So that could be enough to the point where we see it maybe not be chosen as much in the future. We'll have to see how that happens. It's going to be coming up in the Americas server in a very short amount of time. I think it's hitting Russia pretty soon, though. Shot
hit against Yorkamolo 244 for damage. 35 seconds left. Oh, there's the reset against Gabriel Angelos, and here's RUlette getting closer to those tracks, trying to find a couple quick shots against RBIS. 4 minutes and 23 seconds for the defenders to continue to hold, and they've really put RBIS into a position where they can't move at all.
Precam engaging against Yorkamolo does not know Game is Rigged is nearby. He will have support, but Yorkamolo is taking a lot of damage himself, and now up and over, Yorkamolo should go down, but a missed connection from Akiyama.
He finally does, but Game is Rigged. He's going to pull back as he's reloading.
There's a lot of potential damage, though.
Definitely. And one of those tanks is down for RUlette, but not out of it yet. As to the north side, Ox Mathis is firing back to the tanks that are trying to push in here a little bit. It's Valera Desolator who's up against both Mi Amigo and Gabriel Angelos. You'll notice Toplum is further away, and Master Putin's going to meet Valera. And Azpilicueta is coming as well. This is going to be an overmatch, and there they come. Mi Amigo's taking the first shot of damage, and Valera Desolator gets the shot after Master Putin lands another one. Gabriel Angelos will be the next target, and now RUlette can focus in the center, where Akiyama, Ox Mathis, and Cell are trying to fire back, and Master Putin is heading towards the water. He has one shot remaining, and he'll get out of danger. Beautiful play coming from Master Putin, and RUlette will continue to punish. Cell is firing back against Vacuum, though. These three tanks remaining from RBIS need 3 minutes and 10 seconds to destroy either all of RUlette's tanks or get the flag cap. RUlette is lower on hit points, though, and so RBIS can try to use this to their advantage.
Yes, I think that's the important part, the hit points. RBIS has less guns. If they can engage against tanks from RUlette when they're separated, then they can win this. But if they have to do it against a mob of tanks, the damage will be too much to deal with. And even though they do have more hit points, it's not that many hit points that these 5 tanks can't very quickly deal with them one at a time. It's all about the coordination. It's all about how they engage, find their enemy, and win in this situation. Although RBIS is on the attack, so they are pressured to hunt down their opponent and get the kills with T-32s, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're the ones that have to push in, and even though they're at a distance that allows them to have some cover if they move either east or west, they have not enough time to choose. They have to have made the choice already right now as we get past the 2 minute and 30-second mark. But they're hanging there in Foxtrot 4, Foxtrot 5, and they're trying to take down Valera Desolator first, but with now 2 minutes left, Game is Rigged's in a great position to at least keep them occupied. Toplum's in a great position to continue the flag cap resets. So RBIS still has a chance here, but it's a very, very slim one as RUlette has great map control.
I'm thinking that RUlette's going to be able to make it happen, though. Look at how spread out there. Game is Rigged all the way in the west is going to be able to spot Smiley. That means that now he can start taking fire, so can the rest of the T-32s if he's able to stay passive. And the 5916 will stay passive and unspotted for now, although he may have to shift, as he is now leaving the back of his tank out of a bush, not fully covered. He will put as much damage as he can and delay as long as he can. I think this will work in such a manner. And it will. There's 1:15 left. Look at the clock. Look at the distance they have to cross. They have to go all the way to the far east and north. Alpha 0. Smiley is the only one who's going to make it there. If he goes down, there's no chance. No chance at all. And there it is.
There goes Smiley.
I think RUlette's got it. It's in the bag from here.
Ox Mathis continues to wait for his reload as they're looking for Game is Rigged, and Sella is hanging back with Ox Mathis as well. Azpilicueta at the north is waiting for them to push up here. 45 seconds left. And Ox Mathis takes down Game is Rigged. 2 tanks remain. Still for RBIS, 36 seconds. You'll notice the hit points, though, are almost even. About 130, 129 difference. in favor of RUlette. Ox Mathis gets hit from a distance at 3:59. 20 seconds. This will be a victory for RUlette as they close this up here. So that's going to bring them 3-0 against RBIS with one battle remaining on Prohorovka before we go to Murovanka. And RUlette is defending this next battle and the next two as well.
Yeah, it's not going to work for him, I think. Right now, I'm watching RUlette play. It's much stronger, especially look at their simp match just the other day. RBIS has felt like they've been on more of a decline than RUlette being on the upswing, and you're seeing it in the play. You're seeing RBIS try some moves, which I'm not sure if I should describe as desperate or aggressive, bold, whatever it is. The attack on Precam in the South, for example, or with Precam in the South, aggressive, but what did it accomplish? It didn't do really that much. In the North, RUlette made a decisive action, which did have a huge impact on the match. Something more decisive than taking out, one tank in the South. Then RUlette does make some strong plays. Look at Vacuum getting covered by an ally. He does go down as a T-32, but he was only there to hold. Things that RUlette is doing, they're taking risks in the right places and also keeping the attention of a few tanks from RBIS, a few more than I think that they could even hope for. They just need to keep that one T-32 at bay, but they got Precam and a T-32 at bay for just long enough that they could win the North, for example.
I really love that statement, risks in the right places. It may sound like a country song, but it's true. Risks in the right places is what makes or breaks these teams and separates the professionals from the amateurs. Any type of movement in a battle has some sort of risks, but when you understand plan A, plan B, the different scenarios that can happen by knowing the map terrain, knowing your exit routes, that is where you'll see the differences between teams that make it through the playoffs and teams that have to wait till next season to get a chance to take home some of that prize money in San Francisco. Battle 4 is about to begin. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
All right, standard lineups from both teams. RUlette favoring the two T-32s, 1390, three RU-251s, and a 5916. So they always go for that extra tier 8, and then they'll bring something else in the tier 6 to kind of fill in that gap, RD or a light tank. RBIS going two T-32s, 1390, two RU-251s, and two M41 Walker Bulldogs. Now they pick two tier 7s, which is a consistent choice for them. They don't seem to favor going for the T-37 nearly as often. And you're seeing different results, though, mostly because of playstyle. And I kind of feel like that is a good point to make. It's that it doesn't matter if you do the tier 7s or if you do an extra tier 8. You can still achieve many of the same goals. It's a matter of how you utilize the tools that you've decided to bring.
Mi amigo cruising up on the one line, trying to get further north to find any type of open shots against RUlette here. None yet as he's scanning Precambrian, doing a little bit of a scout run. Not seeing much, only Vacuum is spotted. Precambrian spotted on the side of RBIS, and slowly but surely RBIS will continue to move towards the north, and Precambrian is hit for 243. Smiley Rage is the only tank not with the rest of his teammates over to the right on the minimap that's over in the eastern side. Couple shots fired, another one does connect down to the south. Sella, Precambrian, Ox Mathis now slowly pushing up towards the center. Vacuum still hit, still seen rather. Has not been hit. The only one hit has been Azpilicueta and Valera. And RBIS still looking for an opportunity to whittle down some of that HP coming from RUlette. And they're blind firing into the bushes. Nothing is in that section. So none of their shots will bear fruit. So we go ahead and take a look at the rest of RBIS here to the south. Hanging back, waiting for those T-32s to try to pepper a couple of those shots into RUlette. But nothing yet.
Yeah, and both teams are going to be at odds for a little while. I'm kind of glad for RBIS that they've been able to slow it down, though. In one way.
For now.
In the way that they're not getting gains right now, but in the way that they're able to stabilize and maybe catch a breath, if you kind of get what I'm going for in that. It's right now, they've just lost 3 in a row. You're just trying to keep things under control, you know? You don't have the momentum to dictate anything from your opponent. You can't really do that. They're not mentally in that state. You haven't kind of achieved that position in the series where you can start taking crazy risks as the leader and making your opponent go, whoa, they could be pulling anything because they don't have as much to lose. They can afford a loss. They can do things like that. RBIS, if they try and pull something which it doesn't have a lot of probability to win, something that's a risk, a big risk, that could really bite them, and then they'll just not be able to recover in the rest of the series. They have to try and play the tightest, most high-achieving style, which is going to be much more controlled in some time, and I would say it's going to end up being a little bit slower because you're going to be trying to search for weaknesses, mistakes from your opponent.
And that searching obviously takes time, but there has to be a moment where the commander, the caller says, enough, we've got to pull the trigger, we've got to move, and that's what's happening from RBIS. And Ox Mathis is in significant trouble as RUlette has found him. They're continuing to put shots into him. Sella is trying to head them off, but Ox Mathis is destroyed. Valera is able to get the kill.
Yeah, and now further to the north, I believe we have Toppelin, who is taking control there, being engaged by, I believe, no, Smiley's going for tanks in the middle, which RBIS is trying to put damage over there onto T-32s. That looks like it's going to be onto Vacuum. They're going to try and take those T-32s out, focus on the middle, get the more important tanks there. They're actually ignoring Toppelin up until just a moment ago, where they just lost pre-cam and still haven't managed to get the kill. There they go. Mi Amigo finally does it. But look at the hit points, 3,600 for RBIS, 5,000 for RUlette. Huge lead right now in the fight for RUlette.
North side, still trying to fire into the center as Gabriel Angelos is dodging significant shots here from RUlette. And now Master Putin has to reload as Gabriel Angelos is taken out. 6 tanks still left alive for RUlette. 3 remain for RBIS with 2 minutes and 25 seconds for the attackers. Smiley, not much left of him as he falls into the causeway, the
riverbed.
The riverbed, yeah. As he takes another hit, he peeks up again, and Azpilicueta finally gets taken down, but Game is Rigked's going to move into the flank here.
Yeah, Mi Amigo and Akiyama trying to follow Smiley up, thinking that route is safe, but they've put themselves in a low ground. Mi Amigo trying to find some better terrain to work from. Akiyama will go down, putting himself in the open. Not much hope here, though. Too many guns in the battlefield, too many hit points.
And RUlette's going to be able to clean up this up, and now they're going to lead 4-0. So trying to break down of RBIS has the right idea of what they're trying to do, but they're not finding any open windows to do it.
They're not achieving any part of their strategy any better than RUlette is. The T-32s aren't doing anything that RUlette's aren't. RBIS's light tanks aren't doing anything that RUlette's aren't as well. So they're not outplaying their opponent in any category right now. They're not getting any leads there. They're not able to beat them down, hold down. They didn't win the arty stuff earlier. They actually really did not succeed at all trying to deal with that. So there's nothing really that RBIS is able to do with their current play style, at least on Prohorovka, that's getting them wins, that's getting them a lead anywhere. They continue to fall behind every single time. Now, as we are going to go to Muravanka, this is a chance for RBIS to really turn this one around. They can bring out different strategy. They can reset their mentality. Maybe even a timeout would be appropriate here.
And they just called the timeout right now. So good call, and good call on RBIS, as they're going to have to really change something, because you hit the nail on the head. Nothing is working for them. No strategy is even putting a dent into the prolific armor of RUlette right now. And also to give everybody a quick update on the other non-broadcasted match, that's Penguin Mafia versus Simply Irresistible, and currently Simply Irresistible is up 2-0 right now. We'll keep you updated as that match continues to unfold.
I wrote that backwards. I wrote 2-0 in favor of Penguin Mafia from it. I was like, oh, well, that'll be bad later. That would be bad. Keep the wrong note.
I didn't finish the I, and so it looked like ST, because, you know, obviously a lot of things are happening. Randall and I are controlling the cameras and commentating, and we'll get a heads up from production, and so I wrote ST, and I didn't finish the I. I went, Simple Tankers, Penguin Mafia. That's not correct. That can't be right.
Didn't they already play?
Simply Irresistible versus Penguin Mafia. Simply Irresistible in the lead 2-0.
Okay.
RBIS has the only shot they have now is to take RUlette to a tiebreaker, and this is going to be so hard for them. If they do it, incredible, amazing. This is a team that we saw from Season 4 that beat Simp. If they can't, that means RBIS is not going to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah,
most likely.
That's pretty much what we're looking at if they can't get the win. Now, does it come down to the T32s is one question I'm going to have to ask, which is I'm watching Sela Ox Mathis, especially this last battle, underperforming. Not able to deal much damage at all. Not able to, I think, even bounce all that much damage. 950 by armor, 0 by armor from Ox Mathis. So, not doing exactly what we want. Now, I give it to Sela 950, that's respectable. But from Ox Mathis, he wasn't able to really bounce anything. He was caught in the open. This comes down not just Ox Mathis's play, this comes down to more than that. This is the rest of his team. Because it's not just the sole responsibility of the T32s to protect themselves. They have a weak flank. Everyone else's job on the team is to keep that secure. RBIS' strategy is not accounting for keeping those T32s as safe as they could be. They were taking fire from Artie in the early part of this match, and now they've been getting flanked and flanked and flanked and flanked and flanked every single time and getting shut down immediately. I think that's where things might need to change. If we see Artie again, that needs to be shut down. If we see flanking happening again, RBIS needs to be there ahead of time.
Now, if there's any type of magical card that RBIS has to play, this is the time to do it right now. This is their last shot to make it into the playoffs. RUlette is up 4-0. Murovanka, RUlette will be defending. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
Well, we have a single T32, a Pershing, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and a 5916 for RUlette. RBIS, blue team attacking, last chance for them. 2 T32s, 2 1390s, 2 RU-251s, and a 5916. So they're changing away from their 2 tier 7 strategy, now going to the extra tier 8. They need to match that kind of play style and firepower that their opponent's going to bring. And they're going to do that by bringing the extra tier 8 and not bringing the M41s this time.
Movement coming from RBIS is not split necessarily, but they're fanning slightly out on the Charlie and Delta line. Precambrian's going to be furthest towards the Magical Forest.
Real quick, a tweet from JM. He would love to see Follow D-Man, so of ESL, as a guest caster. One of the best in the industry. Hashtag WGL, I would have to agree, is incredible.
Yes, yes.
And that would be cool. I think I'd have to check, did he ever? No. I think we've had Red Eye commentate before. We've had a few other people step in, and it's always been a pleasure.
Joe Miller has commentated World of Tanks, another fantastic commentator in the world of esports, and they are in the European office, where Oliver and Melly and Lauren commentate the EU League. Big shout out and love to them. Look forward to seeing them at the Global Grand Finals in Warsaw, Poland. Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Going back for the second time, it'll be kind of like the gangs getting back together in kind of a way. It's really great, and we put on quite the great show. When I say we, I mean everybody involved in the Wargaming League. And looking forward to the next one. That's going to be April 25th and 26th, where the top teams from around the world will fight for a very big prize pool. More details will follow, but we're getting through this season first as RBIS is looking for, again, another opening to try to punish RUlette here as the defenders. A little bit of blind fire heading towards Sela. Nope, he is spotted, and he takes 2 shots as he backs away.
Yeah, we're getting little shots fired here. I'm worried about Vacuum. He is very far forward, and now you're seeing RBIS's push come in. That is 5 light tanks getting ready to just take apart Vacuum. And I'm what is going to be behind him? We've got Yurkamolo on a crossfire.
Gabriel Angelos is the first one's going to get shot. And this crossfire, as you mentioned, Randall, is beautiful coming from RUlette. Vacuum now going to get surrounded, though, by RBIS as Akiyama's continuing to push forward. Forward is the best direction right now, especially when you're under heavy fire. Akiyama and Precambrian are hit. 2 shots remain for Precambrian. Those are focusing on Aspilaqueta. And this RBIS strike force is doing damage, but not enough, as they're taking significant damage as well. 2 tanks for both sides have been destroyed, but look at the HP difference. 1,000 and 100 HP for RUlette right now.
Yeah, the light tanks moving in the way they did are just being torn apart, and I'm not seeing a lot of pressure going onto Valera until, well, just now. Ox Mathis and Sela, do you think they should have pushed forward sooner? I'm thinking yes right now, so that they could deal with Valera and perhaps even tank a little damage while the group of 5 comes in.
More of a unified front?
Yes, so that you split the attention. You don't give them the option to think clearly about which they're going to engage against first. But it's a little late for that. Master Putin has shown up, and he's going to start tearing apart Sella and Oxmathis. Looks like he'll go for Oxmathis first.
Well, Yorkmolo falls, but Smiley Rage is 1 shot away from falling, even though he has 4 shells, and Toplum misses a shot against Mi Amigo. Toplum, you have Smiley right in front of you, and he misses that shot as well. Toplum's in some trouble, and he's 1 shot away possibly from falling. There's 1. Smiley Rage trying to look for it, and he gets it. Toplum goes down. 3 tanks remain for both sides, but look at the amount of hit points still left for RUlette. Only 382 on the field for RBIS when it comes to hit points. 2 tanks remain. Game is Rigged is pushing forward.
I mean, Game is Rigged can do this by himself. He can solo the 2 of these tanks.
That he could. He's going to focus on Mi Amigo first. He's going to get around him. 1 shot for 105. Another for 226 in the total volley.
Oh, bounce.
And he gets 1. And Master Putin takes down Smiley Rage, and that's it. RUlette takes the series 5-0. Wow, excuse me, against RBIS.
No, it's a little stunning, isn't it?
A little bit stunning. Let's recuperate here for a bit. But that does it for RBIS this season. We wish them all the best of luck in Season 6, and hopefully they will continue to do what they need to do to reclaim that spot they had in Season 4 in 3rd place.
Yeah, a rough season. They've gone through some interesting changes. I think that's it, really. RBIS is not performing as well as a lot of other teams. A lot of other teams putting in so much more time, work, and getting a lot of results.
And RUlette stays alive, and most likely they will be in the playoffs. We'll have to double-check the standings at the end of the night tonight because there's other factors as well based on tiebreaker points, on wins, on losses, and all sorts of things that can happen. But that's the first match of tonight. We have 3 more matches left. The next one is going to be Simp versus Fun Gaming. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.